good morning, good morning. Welcome to the Truth Seeker. I got some breaking news. It's crazy news. But my niece is going to college at Bowling Green, and I can't believe this. Now that I think about it, Katie goes to Bowling Green, and now this guy, oh my god, this is scary. Listen, you guys, this is crazy, okay?
Before you hear tonight, a Bowling Green man has been sentenced to 8 years in prison for rape involving a minor. This is 38-year-old Gregory Kamer Jr. According to Wood County Prosecutor's Office, Kamer was convicted of raping a 5-year-old girl.
What?
He first faced the possibility of 4 consecutive life sentences on the charges before the Court of Appeals found testimony from the victim should not have been allowed at trial. Kamer was later indicted in 2019 on charges of rape, gross sexual imposition, and disseminating matter harmful to juveniles. He was first convicted in the case and sentenced in 2020.
And he's only gonna get 8 years? You've got to be kidding me. No fucking way. 10 hours ago, guys.
The Court of Appeals found testimony from the victim should not have been allowed at trial. The Court of Appeals found testimony from the victim should not have been allowed at trial. Kamer was guilty of 4 consecutive life sentences on the charges before the Court of Appeals found testimony from the victim should...
I don't think there's any more news on that one, but I wanted to get that out to you guys. That's crazy. That's in Ohio, you guys. What the hell is going on in this world? I mean, a 5-year-old? A 5-year-old. A poor little girl is gonna have to go through so much trauma, so much pain. Like, I can't imagine. I've been through it, so I know. You know, I was a little girl. Both times. This is sad. Let's just... Glad that this guy's locked up, but for only 8 years? No, he should be getting more. I wonder how we can contest that. No. I cannot believe it. Oh my god. Since we're here, we're just gonna cover this real quick. This is one day ago, guys. Danielle Daphne pleading on her 5-year-old son, Elijah Lewis. Wow, this is the little boy that was missing, guys. Elijah. Remember?
Good morning. So, Ms. Daphne, we're going to start by having you stand. I'm going to ask that you state your name for the record. Thank you. If you could raise your right hand and stand, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the case of
What the fuck?
Thank you. Put your hand down. I just have some paperwork to review with you. Your attorney has submitted an acknowledgement waiver, right? And also a waiver acceptance review. Could you go through that before I your sentence? Great. On those forms, there is a signature line above where it says defendant. Your attorney has electronically added your signature. Has that been done with your
Elijah Lewis.
Thank you very much.
New Hampshire courtroom.
You intend to plead guilty today? And this is a capped plea, correct? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the state to explain what it is that they will be seeking, and I'm going to come back to you and ask if that's what you expected to hear, okay? Please approach. My apologies.
How could you unalive your own baby? How? How could somebody do that? Why? I can't tell if she's gonna try to do the insanity plea. So I'm wondering if she took a plea deal, guys. And where's the other guy at? Is he going to get charged too? Because he surely did help. Wasn't it the story that they sent Elijah to the guy to get more stricter punishments? You guys remember that? I want to click this button, but I don't know where it's going to go. Whoops. I might have to edit that part out.
Son Elijah Lewis, who lived with his mother and her boyfriend Joseph Staff at their Merrimack home in 2020 and 2021. During that time, prosecutors say Daphne beat, starved, and tortured the 5-year-old boy who weighed only 19 pounds at the time of his death.
You concluded that Elijah died as a result of violence and neglect, including facial and scalp injuries, acute fentanyl intoxication, malnourishment, and pressure ulcers.
Daphne and Staff then buried her son's body in a Massachusetts state park before fleeing to New York, where they were arrested.
Ms. Daphne is not leave at all the facts what she says. That you know and participated in her 5-year-old son's death.
Joseph Staff is currently in prison on a manslaughter charge connected to Elijah's death. Details about the little boy's last moments alive, excruciating for family to hear.
I am sick to my stomach, and I can't believe what I've heard today.
Oh my god.
That's not the person I knew, but I fully believe she needs to get the absolute maximum.
Along with the murder charge, Daphne also pleaded guilty to 2 counts of witness tampering. She will be sentenced on October 25th.
Wow. So October 25th, she's going to be sentenced. Let me speed this up a little bit.
Okay, so state please describe what sentence it
It's quite low, isn't it? Breaking news, sentencing underway for arson suspects. Sentencing for 2 Cleveland men guilty of burning down. Oh my god. We're gonna have to go over that one. I'm gonna see if I can get the stuff from there. This is out of Cleveland. Wow.
You may be seated for the moment, and I'll turn to the stage. If this had proceeded to trial, what facts would the state have been able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt? This case happens to be trial state of the mind following evidence to prove that the defendant is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. The crime sought here was the 73-year-old and she constitutes witnesses. Because this is likely to be sentenced under the additional facts of guilt, he would rely on that sentencing case, but will not present the fault here today. On May 26th of 2020, 4-year-old Elijah Lewis was moved from Arizona to New Hampshire by his father, Timothy Lewis. That evening, Elijah's mother, the defendant, came out of committed suicide by 5 people. Met Timothy Lewis in the parking lot at the Federal Mall in Nashville. Timothy Lewis at that time left Elijah with the defendant and her boyfriend Joseph Staff. Elijah was carrying a single backpack containing 40 belongings, and the defendant had not seen Elijah in over 3 years. The exhibit 1 has been beyond the incident, shows how Elijah appeared shortly after he arrived in New Hampshire. This is Elijah as he arrived in May 2020, looking healthy, looking happy. Timothy Lewis happened to drop Elijah off with the defendant, returned to Arizona, and Elijah began living at Sunset Driving near with the defendant, with her boyfriend Joseph Staff, with their 2-year-old child, female daughter BJ Bass. Joseph Staff's mother, Joanne Staff, owned the home that they lived in, and she resided on the first floor, while stalking the defendant, Mr. Staff, and the children lived in the basement. The defendant was the primary caretaker for Elijah and J.S. She stayed home most of the time, and Mr. Staff primarily worked outside the home. The investigation in this case revealed that at least between September 27th, 2020 and September 21st, 2021, the charged period of conduct with respect to homicide, Elijah was assaulted, starved, isolated, and neglected. He was tortured. If called to testify at trial, Dr. Cindy Christian of the Children's Hospital of Pennsylvania would have testified that child torture refers to a child who was in a period of time characterized by these 2 physical assaults or 1 extended assault, 2 and 1 points of psychological maltreatment, and 2 neglect, which results in prolonged suffering, permanent disfigurement, or death. Dr. Christian reviewed the case file for this case, and she concluded that Elijah suffered from torture, repeated physical assaults, ongoing psychological maltreatment, including emotional rejection, degradation, isolation, and denial of care. She found severe physical neglect, all of these things resulting in Elijah Lewis's death. But before we turn our attention to the death of Elijah Lewis today, it's important that the court understand some of his background in New Hampshire and how investigators in New Hampshore became involved in this case. On January 15th of 2001, before Elijah was dropped off in New Hampshire, at a well-tried visit to pediatrician in Arizona, Elijah was measured chesty, 3 feet, 1.25 inches tall, and he was found to weigh 30 pounds, 2 ounces. Elijah's birthday, the day before, January 7th, 2016, means that at that time he was just 34 years old. Moving forward, after he arrived in New Hampshire, in early October 2020, Timothy Lewis filed a complaint with the New Hampshire Division of Children and Youth Animals about concerns he had that Elijah was receiving proper medical care. That complaint opened a DCY assessment and documented that Elijah was living in New Hampshire with the defendants at 70 Sunset Drive in Merrimack.
I had no clue what the current joke was, but a week didn't go by where I didn't become the subject of some kind of meme along.
Text message communication recorded during the investigation showed on October 14th of 2020, the same month that the complaint was filed, the defendant sent to Elijah to Joseph Staff via text message saying, "Look at this fucking his face." Even though Elijah had a drip with his forehead, his eyes were swollen and partially closed. The next day, October 15th, the defendant sent a message to Joseph Staff saying that she had just received a call from a DCY worker and had reported thoughts because she thought maybe someone called us. On October 28th, 2020, the day before the scheduled DCY assessment meeting, the defendant sent a text message to Joseph Staff saying, "I had to be easy on Elijah today because of what's going on, so I gave him a bubble bath with toys." He was down to yes, he has to circle. So records obtained during the investigation confirmed that Elijah was taken to medical treatment only 1 time, but resides in the Hampshire with the defendant. That visit was on November 22nd of 2020. The records found that there was 3 important pieces of information. First, at the time of the Elijah weighed 32 pounds, 3 ounces. Second, the defendant told the doctors that Elijah was leaving New Hampshire next week and would be moving back to Arizona, and that was not mentioned and did not happen. 3, doctors noted bruises on Elijah's face, his left eye, and his right arm. These bruises caused the doctors to report observations to DCYF, which was the second case that Elijah. Moving forward to January of 2021. On January 8th of 2021, the defendant in a phone call to the DCYF worker reported to DCYF that Elijah no longer lived with her. She stated that Elijah had been sent to live with her sister in Stockton, California. This often happened discussed with DCYF, the case Stockton, and indeed Timothy Lewis over the course of legal investigations. In fact, Timothy Lewis found a custody of Elijah in Stockton, the defendant's sister, but the defendants never completed the paperwork to do that. Because of the defendant's lies to DCYF, the investigation was closed. Moving forward much further, October 7th of 2021. On that date, the defendant gave birth to an infant boy during a home birth inside 7 Sunset Drive in Merrimack. On October 10th of 2021, the case winner, Joseph Staff, brought that infant at the Catholic Medical Center in Manchester. This began the DCYF investigation into Joseph Staff, Daniel Dominant, and the residents of 7 Sunset Drive. On October 10th, officers of the Merrimack Police Department went to that home where they met with the defendant and Joseph Staff, as well as with Joseph Staff's mother Joanne. They called to testify at trial officer 2 of the Merrimack Police Department would state that the defendant and Joseph Staff told him that the original lived in the basement, but he moved to the first floor because the renovation happened. But when they went to the basement, they stopped him from doing so. Officer 2 testified that as he looked around the first floor of the home, there were no signs that the boy had lived there. 4 days later, on October 14th, the Child Protective Services worker was assigned to the infant's case and reviewed the history of the assessment with respect to the defendant's Stockton. At 8:07 in the morning, according to phone records, that worker called the defendant and asked her where Elijah was. The defendant told the worker that Elijah was gone, but he left. The worker asked her what that meant, and the defendant said he's gone. The worker confronted her again and said, "I don't just walk away." The defendant then said Elijah was with her sister, Tracy Dominant, in California. The defendant then began sending messages to and calling Tracy Dominant. The defendant's phone records in fact show 87 contacts, messages, and phone calls between the defendant and Tracy Dominant on October 14th between 8:25 p.m. and 12:47 p.m. At 12:45 p.m., DCYF worker testified she called Tracy Dominant in California and asked her about Elijah. Tracy Dominant reported to Elijah. She expressed her continued desire to have Elijah. Tracy told the worker and later told investigators in the Hampshire State Police and Merrimack Police that the defendant contacted her earlier in October 14th, 2021, and that in those contacts, the defendant asked Tracy to go back. She asked Tracy to tell investigators that Elijah was with her when he was out, and Tracy refused. At 1:03 p.m. and at 1:18 p.m. now, October 14th, 2021, according to cell phone records, the defendant was again confined by DCYF workers to Elijah. She asked why. The workers told her that Elijah was in California with her sister. At which point, the defendant told the worker that she sent Elijah to the brother's house.
I wish it was
In instances, questions like this, she told DCYF that her brother's name was Bruce Boyd. He was later identified by investigators as Bruce Churchill. She told investigators that Bruce lived in Texas, and eventually Elijah's phone number for him, but could not get an address. The defendant told the worker that Elijah lived in Texas since September sometime. And looking at her phone records, investigators found there were 17 contacts, messages, and calls between the defendant and Bruce Churchill on October 14th, 2021 between 1:12 p.m. and 8:36 p.m.
So sad.
At 1:45 p.m. on October 14th, 2021, according to DCYF records, the worker called Bruce Churchill, and he said he did have custody of Elijah. Notably, Mr. Churchill did not provide information about Elijah, their school, their location. He said he had Elijah in Texas since September. Because we provide workers with information they were asking for, the school
She's writing something down.
Shortly thereafter, DCYF responded to the body of the Merrimack Police Department and reported that Elijah Lewis was missing. After several hours, and with assistance officers from the Merrimack Police Department and Fort Worth, Texas Police Department, investigators were able to find out that Bruce Churchill did not have Elijah Lewis in Texas, and had never had. Bruce Churchill told officers advised that he last knew Elijah in the custody of the defendant in New Hampshire. He told officers he contacted on October 14th, 2021, and asked him to advise investigators if he had Elijah. He was lied. Further, Mr. Churchill's investigators during this case found a text message that was sent to him by the defendant in which he asked him to lie. There was exhibit 2A and 2B was within his phone signature, so Bruce Churchill exchanged messages with the defendant concerning Elijah. The first message was received by Bruce at approximately 1:26 p.m. New Hampshire time. This demonstrated that talking message at 12:26 New Hampshire time after an hour ahead. And stated in that message, the defendant wrote, "September 10th, Friday, you came inside, you drove up and got him." He stated that 2B yards is attached to the moment where Bruce Churchill starts to go down on his body, asking the defendant asking what shot into, and telling him to get out of it. Even though it's one just one is checked, if he is happy, will stop going on his phone. The officers with the Merrimack Police Department contacted the defendant at 3:16 p.m., so 2 hours after she had provided Mr. Churchill with information
Wow.
It did not respond to their police department. In fact, records recorded during this investigation show that approximately 3:16 p.m. as shown in Exhibit 3, which is what
I wish it was a little bit louder.
Joseph Staff logged in on the phone with the Fairmount Police Department where the digital federal credit union in New Hampshire, where Joseph Staff used Joanne Staff's credit card to take $1,000 out of her bank account. The defendant, Mr. Staff, did not respond again to Fairmount Police Department after this withdrawal, but he went to Target store in Burlington, Massachusetts, Exhibit 4, where he purchased new cellular phones to replace the devices that they were currently using. At Target store, he purchased clothing and toiletries. They were in the price of approximately $1. And now, based on the investigation to date, at this time, the body of Elijah Lewis was in the back of Joseph Staff's truck, parked in Target parking lot. The investigators were able to trace the defendant and Mr. Staff's whereabouts through their phones and through social media accounts. This is the original phone that known to investigators. Records show that they've gone to this target location and investigators were able to find the
I'm going to edit some stuff out. That cop over there is crying. The one that's sitting right there, she is bawling. She's crying. You can definitely tell. I just seen her wipe her face. She's crying. She can't keep it in. It's got to be hard to sit here and watch this.
There was 14 hours gone after investigators first began asking about Elijah Lewis. At this location, Elijah Lewis is found in the Opiate. Like the David Ryan, the David Lewis, down off, but the Hampshire State Police candidate. The defendant Mr. Staff remained at the location, taking Old State Park, for over an hour, close to 2. They didn't leave until about 12:52 in the morning on October 15th of 2021. Recovered from their phone were messages that they exchanged while they were at the location. These communications are related to Elijah Lewis is fine. Let me stop it. You okay? That's Mr. Staff. Have to get through a swamp at MF. Let me stop it. Are you serious? Keep me posted. Mr. Staff, this is tough. Big weeks. Let me try. I have to get it done. Oh, I'm stopping. Okay. Mr. Staff, get in there. Stop me. We gotta figure out where we're gonna go next. Let me stop his phone at 11:48 p.m. that evening. Doesn't have to be taken. Almost ready? Mr. Staff, no. I thought I heard something. Let me stop me. They're good days. Don't worry. I just don't want to stay here for much longer. Mr. Staff, I'm getting there, baby. I'm getting there. He's in hands a lot. Let me stop me. How much longer do you think? It doesn't have to be one down me now. Miss you already. I love you more than.
Democrats are working tirelessly to keep our healthcare options accessible and affordable.
This lady shaking her head trying to say that she didn't do that.
Access to healthcare.
Bullshit. Look at her shaking her head like, no, it's not going to happen.
Once the line was discarded, the defendant and Joseph Staff continued their flight to the state of New Hampshire. They traveled to Burlington, Massachusetts, on October 15th at about 11 in the morning. The defendant paid $200 for the ATM. They then drove to Air Massachusetts for the defendant through their own cellular phones out of the window. The defendant later reported jail calls that she chucked her phone in the river because she didn't want to be tracked. Members of the Air Police Department recovered Joseph Staff's old cellular phone.
We're going to cover this one.
The defendant's old phone was never found. The defendant and Joseph Staff then traveled to the Phoenix Casino in August, arriving there on October 15th at about 7:43
We're going to whip this one up.
They parked in the lodge, the defendant and Joseph Staff entered the casino. They purchased food. They spent approximately 45 minutes at a country music concert inside the Wolfden, and then returned to the parking lot taking inside their vehicle.
Oh shit, the comments were turned off.
At 11:30 next morning, October 16th, 2021, the defendant and Mr. Staff gathered their belongings, abandoned their vehicle, left the parking garage, and boarded a bus on their way to New York.
Oh my god. They were ready to run.
The next day, both the defendant and Mr. Staff were arrested inside the subway station in Bronx, New York. Following her arrest, the defendant was read Miranda rights and apologized for his Miranda rights, waived them, and agreed to speak with members of the Hampshire State Police. The defendant told those officers that in September, Elijah had wandered away from their home. She said they looked for him, but hadn't found him, and had never reported him missing. Joseph Staff told officers the exact same story, and later told investigators that that was the lie they agreed to tell if they got caught. On October 18th of 2021, investigators from the New Hampshire Police Department and the Connecticut State Police conducted a search of the vehicle that the defendant and staff were using. This is Mr. Staff's Toyota Tundra. Showing on State's Exhibit 3, I apologize.
Oh, there's a truck.
6, I apologize. I skipped one yard, so I'll take the right one. Showing the court sees 6A, which is a full exhibit. This shows Mr. Staff's Tundra at the Connecticut State Police garage. During this search of Mr. Staff's Tundra, they recovered an envelope on which was written a story about Elijah leaving the house in September. In addition to that envelope, investigators found several trash bags in the bed of the vehicle, case 6B.
Wow.
Investigators searched each of those trash bags, case 16. And they recovered several items of property that belonged to Elijah in among the household trash.
Aww.
Case Exhibit 16. These items included books, coloring books. Exhibit 16. Some of those coloring books had Elijah's name written on them, crayons, and block childlike writing. Also included in Exhibit 16 a backpack with cars and trucks on it, and a Spider-Man doll.
Oh.
On October the 22nd of 2021, based on data that had been received from the defendant's cellular phones, investigators from the Massachusetts State Police and the New Hampshire State Police began searching in the area of
So she's eyeing her.
Against Exhibit 7. They've called to testify at trial, Your Honor. Trooper David Ryan will testify that he, when he was in this area near where the red mark is on his map, could smell an odor of decay, and that his canine dog Amos was showing indications that he too detected the odor of human remains, but they could not immediately locate the source. At approximately 6 o'clock that evening, the search was called off because of the dark. Trooper Ryan marked the location inside of the park in order to return it to it in the daylight. On October 23rd of 2021, Trooper Ryan began searching the same area of the park. He identified shovel marks in this area of the park, showing State's Exhibit 8A. With that arrow pointing out what David Ryan would have testified indicated to him that the soil had been disturbed and those dark markings were shovel marks. Inside of this area, marked by that black circle on State's Exhibit 8A,
That's where he was at?
Exhibit 8B, which marks the burial location of Elijah Lewis.
Aww.
In State's Exhibit 8,
Bullshit.
Trooper Ryan would
Poor little
testify
baby.
tell in this area that the soil had been
I'm
disturbed.
trying to keep it together,
And
you
that the
guys.
white
Oh
birch
god.
tree up at the top of the exhibit was not in a normal place where it would have been. There was no stump where it had fallen
That's so
from,
sad.
and no other
Poor
reason
baby
that it
did not
landed in that
deserve any
direction.
of it.
Now, Elijah Lewis's body was found in this dirt. It was a shallow pool, and he was found face down in the fetal position. States Exhibits 9A through 9B. I can provide to the court. Yeah, please,
Yes, please.
Uh-oh.
So the States Exhibits 9A and 9B, which the court has in front of it now, show how Elijah's body was positioned in the burial site and his appearance once his body was recovered. Dr. Richard
This judge has to see these pictures.
The chief medical examiner was present at the burial site and helped remove Elijah's body. He also conducted an autopsy of Elijah. During the autopsy, Dr. Atkinson found that Elijah was just 36 inches tall and that he weighed only 19 pounds. Reminding the court that when Elijah was last weighed in November of 2020, he was at a weight of 32.3 pounds. If called to testify at trial, Dr. Atkinson would have testified that Elijah's body was significantly emaciated, with loss of skeletal muscle and no subcutaneous fat. That these two situations were independent of the decomposition of his body. He would state that he was unable.
Sorry, y'all. I'm about to block some of that out. I'm gonna have to
complete an examination of Elijah's
edit.
brain or spine for injuries because of decomposition.
If anybody knows any good, I don't know, a lot of people use that CapCut or something like that. I need a good editing app. I need to be able to edit, which I can do a lot of cool things on my phone. It's just, I don't really know how. And so, yeah. If anybody knows any good apps to use, let me know. Please and thank you. Let's continue.
Atkinson would also testify that during autopsy, he found evidence of Wisniewski spots on the lining of Elijah's stomach. He would state that the presence of these spots is indicative of hypothermia. States Exhibits 10A to 10C, which are in the court's custody at this time, show the condition of Elijah's body at the time of the autopsy, reflecting his emaciation and the status of skeletal mass. Then Dr. Atkinson, following autopsy, concluded that Elijah's death was a homicide.
This poor little boy.
He concluded that Elijah died as a result of violence and neglect, including facial and scalp injuries, acute fentanyl intoxication, malnourishment, and pressure ulcers. A bandage was recovered from one of the injuries on his head. Specifically, Dr. Atkinson found 15 defects to Elijah's head, which were caused by lacerations and or by blunt force trauma, his left elbow and right thigh, and 3 pressure ulcers on his back and on his heels. States Exhibits 11A through 11E show some of the injuries to this court that were occurring to Elijah's head.
Welcome to my game. I hope you have thick skin. Don't blow it.
With respect to the pressure ulcers, the largest ulcer of the 3 was located in the small of Elijah's back. It was found to measure 2.16 inches by 1.77 inches in size, and that ulcer extended from the skin on the middle of his back into the bone of his sacrum. Your Honor, just as a quick demonstration, the size of that injury is reflected here by this red mark on his
Oh my God.
Now, the state notes that at trial, there would have been an independent forensic pathologist that had been retained by the defendant who would have testified at trial as per general agreement with the findings of Dr. Atkinson, and that she would have added an additional cause of death, not of medical neglect. Dr. Elizabeth Laposado would have testified that the injuries suffered by Elijah, the pressure ulcers on his body, and his malnourishment would have been obvious to his caregivers, who could have taken action. Your Honor, turning now back to the events surrounding and leading up to
That's
Elijah's
bullshit.
death, as well as
That they did this to this little boy.
inside of the home at 7 Sunset
Elijah.
Drive. The state believes, according to the evidence, that Elijah's death actually occurred between September the 21st of 2021 and September 24th, 2001. Had there been a trial in this matter, Joseph's staff would have testified, and he would have stated the following facts. Timothy Lewis dropped Elijah off to them in the parking lot of a mall in Nashua, never came to their home, and only exchanged minimal words before leaving Elijah in their care.
Wow.
They
This
found
bitch
out that
needs
Elijah was
to have
shy,
a death penalty.
not very talkative at all, that he needed help bathing and brushing his teeth. According to
Do they
Mr.
have a
Staff,
death penalty in New Hampshire or wherever this is at?
with Elijah, but she soon lost interest in him. She became frustrated with toileting problems.
I know
that
they
were
were found
having,
in New York,
as he was
so
peeing, or he was pooping and having accidents. The
never did
defendant would
clean.
always be yelling or screaming at Elijah, according to Mr. Staff, over these issues, over taking food or hiding toys. According to Mr. Staff, the defendant would leave Elijah naked for days. He would testify to some instances he observed of assault, the defendant slapping Elijah, hitting him in the butt or back, or picking him up by his throat, and Mr. Staff would admit that he did those things as well. Mr. Staff would testify about an incident when he was upstairs with their daughter, which he had indicated to investigators during initial interviews in this case, where the defendant was downstairs giving Elijah a shower, ran upstairs screaming for help, and he found Elijah knocked out, but breathing downstairs. He would indicate that the defendant would tell him that Elijah was ruining her life. Mr. Staff
Oh, shit.
described that Elijah became sickly skinny. He would state that he didn't believe the defendant was feeding Elijah while he was away from the home. And in text message communications, Your Honor, the state would show that Mr. Staff, during the course of this time, would tell the defendant to feed Elijah, let him sleep, or give him blankets. And that information comes from the text message communications recovered from Mr. Staff's phone. Mr. Staff would testify that at the end, Elijah could no longer walk or stand on his own. That there were abscesses or holes on Elijah's back that were infected. In text message communications, he would tell the defendant that Elijah had rotten holes in his back. He believed that those were because Elijah was laying in his own urine and couldn't move. Then, during an interview with investigators on October 22nd of 2001, Joseph Staff provided some information to help officers locate Elijah's body. Mr. Staff would testify that he put a white birch tree over the area where he buried Elijah. He would describe that afterwards he couldn't stop vomiting, but that the defendant kept telling him it was going to be okay, or words to that effect. He would testify that they threw away the blanket that Elijah was wrapped in, and the tote box in which they had stored his body, in a dumpster at another Massachusetts apartment complex. These items were not found by investigators, but they did recover surveillance video that showed the vehicle the defendant and staff were traveling in at another apartment complex in Massachusetts. Between October 15th and October 25th of 2021, officers from the Merrimack Police Department and the New Hampshire State Police conducted searches of 7 Sunset Drive. Among other items, they recovered a blue faded sheet from a bedroom in the basement that had a bunk bed frame in it. Of note, the bunk bed frame had Elijah written on it in crayon, and the state will call this Elijah's room. They also found an unsigned temporary guardianship affidavit form in the basement. They found 2 bags with brown powder suspected narcotics in the basement next to a queen-size bed, 1 bag of suspected narcotics from the top shelf in the basement bathroom, and 1 bag containing suspected narcotics from the top of the refrigerator in the basement kitchen. During this search, investigators found that the basement bathroom had broken tile in the area surrounding the bathtub. They found in that area multiple, being 29 small red-brown stains consistent with blood on the tiles that remained. The small red-brown stains were on the 3 walls that surrounded the bathtub itself, on the shower curtain, and on the ceiling 7 feet above the floor. Red-brown staining suspected to be blood was also observed on the detachable shower head. That item was recovered by investigators. If called to testify, Trooper Mallory Littman of the New Hampshire State Police Major Crime Unit would have stated that the bathroom appeared to have been cleaned. There were numerous empty bottles of cleaning solutions, including bleach, Windex, and household cleaner on the floor in that room. Investigators had to use a chemical enhancement in order to document the cleanup of the suspected blood and to locate as many samples of that red-brown blood staining as possible. The New Hampshire State, all of the samples recovered and all of the evidence recovered was submitted to the New Hampshire State Police Forensic Laboratory, who conducted chemical tests on the suspected narcotics recovered from the basement of 7 Sunset Drive. All 4 baggies recovered inside the basement were found to contain a mixture of illegal drugs that included heroin and fentanyl, among other substances. The New Hampshire State Police Forensic Laboratory then conducted testing on a suspected blood staining found on the blue fitted sheet from Elijah's room, as well as on 2 swab samples of suspected blood from the bathroom.
The guy's locked up, and now she is. Now, the sentencing is October 20th. So, what did she take a plea to? What was the plea? I'm not sure. I don't remember now that we've been into it. I was just trying to give like a recap. But she and that other guy, they tried to run to New York. They did awful things to baby Elijah. What they did is horrible. And that mom, like, I just cannot believe this.
One of those samples were from the shower curtain, and the other was from the back corner wall near the top of the bathtub. Those samples were compared to a known DNA sample that was recovered from Elijah Lewis during his autopsy. Each of the samples of red-brown staining on the blue fitted sheet and the 2 samples from the bathtub were found to be consistent with a single source male DNA profile. And further, each sample was found to be from Elijah Lewis. 7 additional swab samples of suspected blood from the bathroom, including 2 samples from the ceiling and the sample from the shower head, were sent to an outside forensic laboratory for testing. A forensic scientist conducted DNA testing on those swab samples and compared them to the known profile of Elijah. Each of those samples were found again to consist of a single source male DNA profile, and further, each sample was found to be from Elijah. During the course of this investigation, members of the New Hampshire State Police Major Crime Unit reviewed thousands of communications of the defendant. Those communications consisted of her conversations with Joseph Staff, Joanne Staff, and Facebook communications with Tracy Daphne and Bruce Scherzer, among others. These communications again consist of Facebook messages, text messages, and multimedia messages, where the defendant would send photographs and videos of Elijah. Examples of these messages that are relevant to the defendant's guilty plea are included here as follows. Additional messages may be discussed or presented during the October 25th sentencing hearing. April 20th, 2021. And all this kid does is cry because he's fucking hungry. And these are all messages so that the court is aware. From Miss Daphne, this is from Facebook. The next is from Facebook from Miss Daphne. I gave him a small bowl of cereal so he would shut the fuck up, but that wasn't enough. He said he wants food, and he wants me to stop starving him because it's not nice.
Aww.
From her messages sent to Joseph Staff from her cell phone. These are obtained from Joseph Staff's original phone since Miss Daphne's was never recovered. July 27th of 2021. I'm gonna kill this kid, Joe. Fucking screaming on the top of his lungs for fucking water and waking JS and I up. July 29th, 2021. Elijah, I'm gonna kill him and I mean it. July 29th, 2001. I hit him in the head with a shower rod. That's all I did. September 7th, 2021. Just whoops the maggot's ass.
Oh my god, you guys, I can't even go through this. I can't, you guys, this is so hard.
On September the 11th of 2021, Miss Daphne sent this message to Joseph Staff. And they're showing State's Exhibit 14, which is in evidence. This photograph shows a very recognizable Elijah Lewis. His hair texture has changed, his face is covered in bruises, his nose appears oddly shaped, and his left eye appears to be swollen shut. He has cuts and marks all over the right side of his face. Now, when this photograph was recovered, it was sent to Dr. Richard Atkinson of the Medical Examiner's Office in Massachusetts. Dr. Atkinson reviewed this photograph and compared it with an identification or head
I
photograph
hope she
of
gets
Elijah
the death
Lewis from autopsy.
penalty.
Dr. Atkinson found that the injuries above and below Elijah's right eye, the injury on the bridge of his nose, shown in the photograph, are all consistent with injuries he observed during autopsy and are injuries which contributed to Elijah's cause of death. Further, Dr. Atkinson stated that the cut on the left
I mean,
side of
can't the
Elijah's forehead
public
in the
do
photograph
something? Can't we step up and say something? Like, hey, like, why can't... I don't get it, because what that she did... is horrible. Some of those messages, oh my god. I don't think I was gonna make it there, you guys. I didn't think I was gonna make it because of how graphic and just and this lady's not this bad mother. She shouldn't even be a mother. This human, Danielle, definitely should have never been a mother. And how she's not sitting there crying, she's not showing no remorse, no emotion. She cannot be rehabilitated. I'm sorry. Just like Tamika. Tamika's never going to be normal. Tamika, I don't think there's any hope for. Apparently, they think she can be rehabilitated, and that's not the case. I don't think she can be. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about Tamika going to her appeal and knowing that she was not in contempt, but in contemptuosity, however you say that word. They're trying to say that she was not in her right mind when she killed her little boy. Smokable, we got it.
Is consistent with the location of an injury he observed during autopsy. The court has a copy of State Exhibit 15, which shows the court's comparison of these two images. In the days after September the 11th of 2021, Elijah's condition worsened, and his body began to fail, and it is evident in the text message conversations between the defendant and Joseph Staff. And yet Ms. Daphne still continues to assault and neglect him. The morning of September 13th, 2021, the defendant sent a message to Mr. Staff, as is on screen, saying that JS, their daughter, spilled her whole bowl of cereal on the bed, their dog wouldn't shut up, and Elijah won't stop asking for shit. He's complaining he's cold, and he wants a blanket. Now, from the text messages that have been reviewed in this case, it is clear that towards the end of his life,
For that little boy to say to stop starving him, it's not nice.
And he saw that Elijah's breathing was more rapid and labored. Elijah started vomiting. Mr. Staff had testified and confronted the defendant about Elijah's worsening condition, and she didn't seem to care if he died. In text messages on September 16th of 2021, Mr. Staff told the defendant that they could not, quote, torture him again. He reminded her that Elijah had a rotten hole in his back, and the defendant responded that Mr. Staff was babying Elijah, and asserted that she was the boss. The text messages in that conversation show, among other things, the defendant's hatred of Elijah. That's the court's indulgence. I'm going to read through this conversation because it's very instructive as to the defendant's guilt. Starting at 11:26 in the morning on September 16th of 2021, the defendant texted, "Every goddamn fucking time you leave, this fucking piece of shit kid gets so fucking disrespectful. I hate him. I hate him. Are you on your way back yet? This kid is standing. I took his mattress away because he's talking back to being a smart ass. Wouldn't listen to a goddamn thing I said. So he has to stand. I don't care what you say. He does not disrespect me at all. He's a fucking rotten kid, inside and out." Mr. Staff, what was he not listening to, and what was he saying? We cannot torture him again. From Ms. Daphne, I told him to sit and he kept bending in half. I told him to sit up and he said he can't. And he told me he doesn't want to. I asked him why can't he listen to me. He said because he doesn't feel like it. He can stand. That's not torture. That's a punishment. Every child stands in time out. Fuck him, Joe. No, don't care. From Mr. Staff, he has a rotten hole in his back, babe. From the defendant. And that's his fault. He can't bend in half. From Mr. Staff, it is obviously painful. I know it's his fault. From the defendant, I just told him to sit. That's it. If he fucking listened, it wouldn't be bad. Stop this, Joe. He's standing and that's final. From Mr. Staff, we don't care. From the defendant, I'm the fucking boss now. He's disrespecting me because you let him get away with it. Baby, the fucking piece of shit, he can rot in hell. He chooses to piss all over himself. He chooses to pick and transfer germs. He chooses to bend and make it harder on him. If the fucking freak would listen, none of this would be happening. He won't ever, from Mr. Staff, he won't ever listen. He will forever be rotten. From the defendant, I gave him chances after chances. I told him fucking 10 times to sit or I'm taking the mattress away, and he just ignored me. Then mouthed back. Gave him another chance. I took the fucking mattress away and he continued to not listen, so now he can fucking stand. His back hurts, like you said. You want the poor baby to lay down all fucking day, get sips from daddy, and making sure to ask him if he has to pee? No fucking way. He needs to move, not lay there like a dead, rotten animal. He had his chance of being babied and getting what he wanted. He ruined it. Game over. I'm done with this life. I'm a pissed off, fucking crazy, fucked up person because of him, and my daughter has to live with it. Fuck him and his fucking back and his fucking rotten body. That's the life he chose, so that's be, or I wouldn't have been this pissed. Making you clean up for hours and he just stand there and watch, never saying sorry. You can say whatever you want. It's my way now. My fucking piece of shit kid. I'll do what I want. Not gonna have him disrespect me because Jody is in. I'll fucking hang the kid. Now, following these messages from the defendant to Joseph's staff, Elijah was only discussed one more time by name. Phone records showed on September the 21st of 2021, Mr. Staff was shopping at the Target store in Nashville when the defendant sent him a text message complaining that Eli had kept their daughter awake all night. That was the last time he was mentioned or discussed, until October the 10th of 2021, when DCYF began their investigation into the family. While Mr. Staff was at Target that day, from 6:32 until 7:30, Mr. Staff sent Ms. Daphne 21 text messages and began making repeated calls from her cell phone. He became increasingly concerned because she wasn't responding, or appears to. Mr. Staff left the store, arriving at Sunset Drive in Merrimack at approximately 7:45 p.m. He described to officers who would have testified at trial that when he arrived home, he found the defendant lying in bed with their daughter and found Elijah injured in the basement bathroom. He would indicate that Elijah was sitting in the bathtub surrounded by broken tile, that Elijah was naked and he was disoriented and had an injury to his head. Mr. Staff put a bandage on Elijah's head and put him to bed. No one sought medical attention for Elijah or took any other action to seek help, and Mr. Staff would testify that shortly thereafter, whether that night or later in the week, Elijah died. At some point throughout that week, between September 21st and September 24th, Elijah died as a result of those injuries, as a result of his neglect, as a result of his malnourishment, the open pressure wounds on his body, and his exposure to the illegal drug fentanyl. Joseph's staff would have testified that when he told the defendant that Elijah was no longer there, the defendant appeared relieved, and she said, "Wrap him in a blanket and get him out," or words to that effect. Mr. Staff wrapped Elijah in a blanket. He placed Elijah's body into trash bags, and he placed it outside the entrance to their basement apartment. He later placed the bags containing Elijah's body into a plastic tote bag that remained on the property at 7 Sunset Drive in Merrimack until October the 14th of 2021, at which time Elijah's body was placed into the bed of Joseph Staff's pickup truck, along with the trash bags containing his clothing, toys, and books, before the defendant and Mr. Staff fled the state of New Hampshire. On the morning of September the 24th, 2021, at about 9:30 in the morning, the defendant and Joseph Staff exchanged text messages. The defendant sent a text message telling the defendant that she was raped. She followed that by saying, "Seriously, like I can breathe and be free. I was a prisoner for so long, baby. It was hell. It wasn't how I wanted JS to be raised. She deserves the whole world. We deserve nothing but happiness and health, time to kick ass and make moves, time to create a life that our beautiful children deserve." And that would be some of the evidence that the state would have expected to present on trial in this matter.
I could not believe it. She had to read all that. Now that was all the evidence that they would have presented to put her behind bars.
Ms. Duncan does not agree with all of the facts, but she does that she told him participated in her father's son's death. She does admit that she instructed Tracy Dominic to provide false information. She does admit that she instructed Patricia to provide false information. She also further admits that the evidence presented at trial would be sufficient to prove all the elements of the defense of the argument.
Okay. Ms. Daphne, do you agree with what your attorney just said? So you agree there is sufficient evidence to support each element for the 3 charges that you're pleading guilty to beyond a reasonable doubt? All right. I have in front of me, or will in just a moment, the acknowledgement and waiver of rights form that Madam Clerk discussed with you at the beginning of this proceeding. Did your attorney go over the rights that you're waiving today? So I have to be sure that you understand your rights in order to take your plea. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions about those rights. If you don't understand my question or you need to talk to your attorney at any time, let me know, okay? How old are you? How far did you go in school? So are you able to read and write? You're able to understand conversations you've had with your attorney and what's happening here today? Do you know you don't have to plead guilty? And by pleading guilty, you're waiving certain constitutional rights, correct? Specifically, you're waiving your right to a speedy and public trial on these charges, correct? Do you understand that a trial would be held before 12 jurors? Do you further understand that all 12 jurors would have to vote guilty in order for you to be convicted? Do you understand you have a right to counsel throughout trial? A trial would have been your opportunity to see and hear witnesses testify under oath, correct? And do you understand that your attorney could challenge those witnesses to cross-examination? You could also call your own witnesses or produce evidence to defend yourself, right? You have the right to have the court compel the attendance of evidence and witnesses on your behalf, correct? Do you understand you would not have to prove your innocence, but instead it would be the duty of the prosecutor to prove by competent evidence your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt to each and every element for each and every charge? You have the right to silence. You could not be forced to testify, but you have the right to testify if you chose to. Do you understand that? Do you know that if you chose not to testify, I would instruct the jury they could not draw any inference from your silence? Do you understand it would be your right to ask me to exclude any evidence obtained illegally? Because you're pleading guilty today, I'm not going to analyze the evidence in that way, understood? Do you understand you're waiving your right to appeal this matter to the New Hampshire Supreme Court? Your You're also waiving sentence review. That's a panel of 3 other judges who could review your sentence for its fairness, increasing it, decreasing it, or leaving it the same. You understand that by waiving sentence review, there'll be no review of the sentence by other judges. Do you understand all of these rights? Not just the ones I've gone over, but all of the rights that are in this form? And with all of those rights in mind, do you want to waive your rights and plead guilty? Are you pleading guilty because you admit that you committed the acts charged? Have you reviewed each of the indictments with your attorney? Do you understand each one of these charges? Have you reviewed the discovery in the case
I'm
with your attorney?
surprised she didn't pull
Have you
no
discussed
stunt
with your
that she
attorney
was.
any and all defenses
She
you
didn't
have
know
in
what
this
she was
matter?
doing.
Have you reviewed the
She
maximum
was
penalties for each of these charges?
incompetent. I
You
can't say that
understand
word.
there is for murder in the
Incompetent.
second
I
degree,
don't
there's a
know.
mandatory minimum as charged of 35 years.
Who that is? I'm gonna have to edit. Damn it! I didn't want to have to do a long edit. And now I'm gonna have to because people keep calling
Maximum
me.
punishment of imprisonment for life. And tampering witnesses, the maximum there is 3.5 to 7 years and up to a $4,000 fine. Have you taken any medication, drugs, or alcohol in the last 24 hours? So you're clear-headed? Has anyone threatened, forced, or coerced you or anyone near or dear to you to get you to plead guilty today? Other than the agreement of a capped plea, has anyone made you any other promises which have influenced you in any way to plead guilty rather than go to trial on these charges? Do you understand if you're not a U.S. citizen, you may suffer other consequences of these convictions, including but not limited to deportation? Do you feel like you've had sufficient opportunity to talk about these matters with your attorneys? Have you told them all the facts and circumstances involved in these matters so that they could adequately advise you? Have your attorneys discussed with you what the state would need to prove to obtain a conviction for each charge and your possible defenses? Have they answered all of your questions? Are you satisfied with the services of your attorneys? If I accept your pleas of guilty, are they entirely free and voluntary on your part? If I accept your pleas of guilty, is that choice entirely free and voluntary on your part? Do you have any questions of me at this time or of your attorneys? And do you know of any reason why I shouldn't accept your pleas of guilty today? All right, counsel, have you had an adequate opportunity to talk about these matters with your client?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you reviewed each and every element for each offense and possible defenses? Have you reviewed the maximum penalties for each offense? Do you believe that your client is knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily waiving her rights? Do you know of any reason why I shouldn't accept her plea of guilty? And does the defendant waive formal reading of the indictments? All right. So as to charge ID 1968131C, as amended, second degree murder, knowing, guilty or not guilty. As to charge ID 1916901C, tampering with a witness, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty? As to charge ID 1916903C, tampering with a witness, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty? The court, having determined that the charges have a factual basis, having questioned the defendant and counsel on the offer of her pleas of guilty, the defendant and her counsel having advised the court they have conferred concerning the aspects of these charges and any potential defenses.
Wow.
The court, having observed the defendant in making her answers, her demeanor, apparent intelligence, and attitude, and having observed that the defendant does not appear to be under the influence of anything that would affect her judgment, the court finds the defendant has knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily waived her rights and entered pleas of guilty which are accepted. Sentencing in this matter is scheduled for October 25th, 2024 at 10 o'clock. Is there anything further from counsel? Anything further from the state? All right, the hearing is concluded. Thank you.
Wow, that was a long ass court thing. But I'm glad we got to it. I'm glad we got to it. I didn't think I was gonna make it, y'all. I did not think I was gonna make it. That was rough and tough. Let me tell you. Wow. May she rot in hell for everything that she has done to that little boy. Elijah. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. What do you guys think? Where is she gonna get? Sentencing is October 25th, they said. So we'll see. Love you all. Have a great day.